Most people don't quit because they're lazy. They quit because the timeline is longer than they expected. When you start something, you tell yourself you'll be the one who goes all the way, and you believe it. Because in that moment, you can still feel the spark. You can see the vision of yourself already at the finish line. The problem is that finish line was just an image in your head, not a date on a calendar. And reality does not match the fantasy. It's not that you can't work hard. It's that you didn't realize how long the hard would have to last. People think the main killer of dreams is distraction. It's not. It's the slow, invisible erosion of belief when progress doesn't match your expectations. You expect instant results. You expect success on your first try. Nobody tells you this because if they did, you probably wouldn't start. They give you the highlight reels of people who made it without showing the hundreds of days they sat there wondering if they were just wasting their time. And that's when most people quit. Not in a dramatic moment, but in quiet resignation. It's not even a decision. It's a slow fade. And deep down, you know the truth. You didn't stop because it was impossible. You stopped because you couldn't handle the gap between the story in your head and the reality in front of you. It's easy to keep going when you're improving every week. It's easy when you're motivated. It's easy when people are watching and praising you. But that's not what breaks people. What breaks people is the stretch where you put in more effort than ever before and get absolutely nothing in return. No results, no recognition, just silence. That's the stretch where the 99% stop. And it makes sense. Because in their mind, if hard work isn't leading to progress, then why keep doing it? Why keep pushing into the void? This is where brutal honesty matters. Most people are only okay with hard work if it comes with quick returns. But life doesn't care about your sense of fairness. Results don't arrive in a neat, predictable order. Sometimes the results show up all at once, after years of nothing. And if you quit before that point, you'll never know how close you were. People walk away from something that could have been life-changing because they assumed the pain meant they were doing something wrong, when the pain is the sign they were right where they needed to be. You don't get tested in the first week. You get tested in the middle. The middle is where you have too much invested to turn back, but no clear proof it's going to pay off. The middle is where motivation has left, and discipline is the only thing keeping you alive. It's where you realize nobody's coming to save you. No one's going to push you. No one's going to beg you to keep going. The world doesn't care if you stop. That's the part most people can't handle, where nobody's watching, noticing, and rewarding them. Maybe nobody is, but the ones who make it don't need the crowd. They build in silence. They show up when it feels pointless. Deep down, they've accepted something most haven't. The point isn't to feel like it's working every day. The point is to keep going even when you're convinced it's not. If you can't handle that stretch, the thankless, quiet, endless middle, it doesn't matter how talented you are or how good your plan is. It doesn't matter if you're more gifted than the people who eventually pass you. If you stop, you lose. And here's the worst part. There will always be someone with less talent, intelligence, and resources who will beat you purely because they didn't quit. That's the reality. The 99% quit before they win, without realizing the potential. There's a point in every journey where you slam into a wall. A psychological wall. It's the moment where progress stalls, motivation dies, and every step forward feels heavier than the last. The wall before success. Most people never make it past it. The wall doesn't appear on day one. It shows up after the excitement fades and the work starts to feel like work. When starting, you can run on adrenaline, fueled by the vision. Each small win feels like a sign you're destined for greatness. However, this is just the starting phase. Only a short time percentage of what it takes to succeed. Eventually, the wins slow down. You work harder and get less back. The energy you had in the beginning is gone. And you start wondering if this is the point where you should be realistic. This is where the majority check out. The wall convinces them the path is wrong. But the truth is, the wall is the path. Every goal worth anything has one. You hit it when you've burned through the easy progress and now face the part that actually tests you. No crowd. No celebration, just silence. That's the wall. It's designed to filter out the people who aren't serious. The wall doesn't care about your talent. It doesn't care how much potential you had when you started. It only cares about whether you keep moving when everything in your body and mind is telling you to stop. Here's what makes it brutal. The wall gives you no feedback. You can push for months and see no change. no evidence you're closer. You must learn to think for yourself. That uncertainty is what kills most people, because humans hate putting effort into something without knowing when or if it will pay off. It's not the pain that breaks people, it's the not knowing. And so they quit, not realizing the wall was there to protect what they wanted. If success were accessible without it, everyone would have it. The wall is the price of entry. The wall often comes right before the breakthrough, not after years of slow decline. This is why you hear stories about people who quit right before they made it. It's not a coincidence. It's because the wall is the last gatekeeper. That's why the 99% never get past the wall. They don't know it's supposed to be there. They think it's proof they're not cut out for this. But here's the shift. The wall is proof you're on the right track. If you're pushing for something big and haven't hit it yet, you're probably still in the easy part. Once you're in the wall, that's when the real work begins. It's not about feeling inspired anymore. It's about taking action when you have zero emotion left to fuel you. You don't get through the wall with big bursts of energy. You get through it with small, consistent hits, day after day. It's not glamorous. Nobody will cheer for you while you're doing it. And that's the point. If you can show up with no applause, guarantee, and no clear end date, that's the first sign you are in the 1%, because you've understood something most people never will. The wall isn't an obstacle in your way. The wall is the way. The people who make it through the wall don't necessarily have more talent than anyone else. They don't always start with more connections, money, or resources. What they have is a way of thinking that keeps them moving forward when everyone else has stopped. The first part of that mindset is acceptance. They accept that it will take longer than they want. They accept that the process will be boring, frustrating, and full of doubt. They don't waste energy fighting those realities. They work inside them. Most people burn out because they expect the journey to feel good most of the time. When it doesn't, they think something's wrong. But the ones who push through know that long stretches of boredom and doubt are part of the deal. They don't panic when progress slows. They don't take it as a sign they're failing. They've already made peace with it. The second part is detachment from quick results. They're not obsessed with winning in a week or a month. They care about whether they're still in the game years from now. If progress comes fast, great. But if it comes slow, they keep showing up. Most people attach their motivation to the scoreboard. If the numbers aren't moving, they stop caring. But these people attach their motivation to the act of showing up itself. That means they can keep working no matter their progression. The third part is an ability to reset quickly after setbacks. They don't carry failure for weeks or months. They feel it, they process it, and then they're back at work. This doesn't mean they ignore mistakes. They learn from them, but they never let a bad day turn into a bad week. They know that consistency beats intensity. That showing up every day and doing the working, regardless of how you're feeling, is what counts. The fourth part is patience. They're willing to wait for the big results, but they're not sitting still. Every day they're doing something to move forward. They understand momentum compounds. A small step today means you're in a better position to take a bigger one tomorrow. Over time, that's how they break through. The fifth part is emotional independence. They don't need constant external validation to keep going. They don't depend on the validation of others. They've built an internal scoreboard that only they can see. They know whether they showed up today. They know whether they pushed themselves. They know whether they got better, even if nobody else noticed. The final part is adaptability. They're not stubborn about the method. When something isn't working, they adjust. But they never adjust the goal downward just to make life easier. They change the strategy without changing the standard. That's why they can survive longer than everyone else. They don't break when plan A fails because they have plan B, C, and D ready to go. None of this is natural for most people. It's built over time by going through hard stretches without running away from them. You don't get this mindset by reading about it. You get it by living it, by showing up in the middle of the wall over and over until you realize that quitting isn't even an option you consider anymore. At that point, it's not about trying to be the best. It's about knowing that you'll keep going until you get there, however long it takes. That's what separates those who finish from those who fade. If you want to guarantee you don't quit, you must remove quitting as an option. The worst time to decide whether to keep going is in the middle of a bad day. You'll almost always talk yourself out of it, so you make the rules in advance. Commit to a minimum standard, not a perfect performance. Most people quit because they set the bar so high that a single bad day feels like failure. Then they start stringing these setbacks together and call it quits. The people who last set a bare minimum version of the habit they can still do even on their worst days. Set time-based contracts with yourself. Instead of saying, I'll do this until it works, say, I will do this every day for 2 years, no matter what. That removes the constant renegotiation with yourself. You're not deciding each week whether it's worth it. When the contract is up, then you reassess. Limit exposure to the wrong scoreboard. The quickest way to burn out is to measure yourself against others, highlight reels. You see their 5-year result and compare it to your 5-day effort. If you need numbers, track numbers you can control. How many hours you've put in, how many reps you've done, how many times you've shown up, not how many people noticed. Stack every win. Most people forget how far they've come because they never document it. When you're in a rough patch, you convince yourself you've made no progress. A log of your wins proves otherwise. It's a running record of every day you showed up, every small win, every setback you fought through. When you feel like you're losing, you can flip through it and see in black and white that you've been here before and kept going. Anchor your effort to an identity. Even if progress slows, quitting means breaking who you are. That's much harder to accept than missing a deadline. Remember your long-term goals and that the journey to get there builds who you are. Every day that you keep going, even when you don't feel like it, is a day that strengthens your identity and mind for the rest of your life. Break the cycle of emotional decision-making. The desire to quit usually peaks during exhaustion, boredom, or frustration. It's rarely a logical conclusion. That's why you should have no decision zones. If you're tired, stressed, or emotional, you can't make any decisions about your long-term commitments until you've slept and calmed down. This alone saves a lot of careers, businesses, and goals from being abandoned for no good reason. Learn to work invisible. If you can't handle long periods without recognition, you'll fold. Train yourself to be okay with nobody knowing you're grinding. The fewer people watching, the more control you have. It's just you versus the standard you've set.